Llywelyn the Last, reigned 1246–1282. Llywelyn ap Gruffudd, better known as Llywelyn the Last, was the final independent Prince of Wales and a figure who remains both heroic and deeply controversial. Rising to power in the mid-13th century, he sought to unite the often fractured Welsh principalities and resist the growing dominance of England. Llywelyn achieved remarkable success early in his reign, even forcing King Henry III of England to recognise his title through the Treaty of Montgomery in 1267. However, his ambitions and resistance to English rule made him a direct enemy of King Edward I, a determined and ruthless monarch. When Llywelyn refused to submit, Edward launched a brutal military campaign. The conflict spiralled into all-out war, devastating much of Wales. Llywelyn was ultimately killed in battle in 1282, his severed head displayed in London as a warning to others. For the Welsh, Llywelyn became a national hero, a symbol of freedom and resistance. Yet to the English crown, he was seen as a dangerous rebel who defied rightful authority. His dramatic fall marked the end of Welsh independence, making his legacy one of both tragic heroism and violent rebellion, a controversy that echoes to this day. Richard III reigned 1483 to 1485. Richard III's reign was short, dramatic, and steeped in mystery and scandal. When his brother, King Edward IV, died, Richard was named protector of his young nephew, Edward V. However, within weeks, both Edward and his younger brother were declared illegitimate and placed in the Tower of London. Soon after, the boys mysteriously vanished, never to be seen again. Many at the time believed Richard had them murdered to secure his own claim to the throne, a suspicion that has haunted his reputation for centuries. His rule faced fierce opposition, especially from the Tudor faction, who portrayed him as a tyrant and usurper. Shakespeare later immortalised this image, depicting him as a hunchbacked villain, driven by ambition and deceit. Richard's reign came to a violent end at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, where he died fighting bravely on the battlefield. His defeat marked the end of the Plantagenet dynasty and the beginning of the Tudor era. To this day, historians debate whether Richard truly ordered the princes' deaths or was simply the victim of Tudor propaganda, keeping his legacy one of the most hotly contested in British history. Henry VIII reigned 1590 to 1547. Henry VIII remains one of the most famous and controversial kings in British history. At first, he was celebrated as a strong, charismatic ruler, but his obsession with producing a male heir ultimately plunged the kingdom into chaos. When the Pope refused to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, Henry took the unprecedented step of breaking away from the Roman Catholic Church. This act created the Church of England, forever altering the religious landscape of the country. Henry's personal life was equally dramatic. He married 6 times, and 2 of his wives, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard, were executed for alleged treason and adultery. These shocking events scandalized Europe and cemented Henry's reputation as a ruthless, unpredictable monarch. His dissolution of the monasteries brought him immense wealth, but also deep resentment among his people, sparking rebellions and decades of religious unrest. While Henry strengthened the monarchy and centralized power, his reign left a legacy of bloodshed, division, and religious conflict. To this day, Henry VIII is remembered as both a powerful visionary and a tyrannical ruler, a king whose personal desires reshaped the very foundation of Britain. Mary I, Bloody Mary, reigned 1553–1558. Mary I, the eldest daughter of Henry VIII, ascended the throne with a bold mission to restore England to the Catholic faith after her father's break with Rome. Deeply devout, she believed she was saving her people's souls. However, her methods were brutal and uncompromising. Determined to crush Protestantism, Mary ordered the execution of more than 200 religious dissenters, who were burned alive at the stake. These horrific burnings earned her the nickname Bloody Mary, a title that would forever define her legacy. Her marriage to Philip II of Spain was equally controversial, as many English subjects feared their nation would become a pawn of the powerful Spanish Empire. Despite her intentions to bring unity, Mary's reign plunged England into fear and division. Her policies ultimately failed, and by the time of her death in 1558, Protestantism had taken even deeper root. To some, she was a devout queen who stayed true to her faith. To most, she remains a symbol of religious tyranny and intolerance. A tragic example of how faith, when fused with political power, can lead to devastation and infamy. Charles I reigned 1625–1649. Charles I's reign was a dramatic clash between royal absolutism and parliamentary power. Believing deeply in the divine right of kings, Charles saw himself as answerable only to God, not to Parliament. This belief shaped his rule and fueled a growing conflict with England's political elite. He raised taxes without parliamentary consent, imposed unpopular religious reforms, and ruled without Parliament for 11 years, earning widespread resentment. His queen, Henrietta Maria, was a French Catholic, which further inflamed tensions in a predominantly Protestant nation. These disputes eventually erupted into the English Civil War, pitting the king's royalist supporters against the parliamentarians led by Oliver Cromwell. After years of bloody conflict, Charles was captured, tried for treason, and found guilty, a shocking moment in European history. On a cold January day in 1649, Charles was publicly executed, the first and only English monarch to meet such a fate. His death marked the temporary abolition of the monarchy and the rise of the Commonwealth. To some, Charles was a tragic figure defending royal tradition. To others, he was a dangerous tyrant whose stubbornness and arrogance plunged England into civil war and chaos. George III reigned 1760 to 1820. George III began his reign with hope and stability, but his rule would become one of the most turbulent periods in British history. Early in his reign, Britain was a global power with vast colonies. However, heavy taxation and strict control over the American colonies sparked growing resentment. His government's refusal to compromise led to the American War of Independence, ending in the shocking loss of the 13 colonies in 1783, a devastating blow to British prestige. As the years went on, George suffered from recurring episodes of severe mental illness, likely caused by a condition such as porphyria. During these episodes, he became incoherent and unfit to rule, which destabilized the government and gave rise to rumours of a mad king. Despite his personal struggles, George was a hard-working monarch who genuinely cared for his people. Yet his reign became synonymous with decline and crisis, from losing America to facing the threat of Napoleon. By the time he died in 1820, he was blind, deaf, and permanently insane. George III remains a deeply divisive figure, remembered both as a symbol of royal dedication and as the king who presided over Britain's most humiliating defeat. Edward VIII abdicated 1936. Edward VIII's reign was one of the shortest and most scandalous in British history. Charismatic and modern in his outlook, Edward quickly captured public attention. However, his love for Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee, created a crisis unlike anything the monarchy had faced before. At the time, both the Church of England and the British government opposed the idea of a king marrying a twice-divorced woman whose former husbands were still alive. Faced with an impossible choice between love and duty, Edward chose love, shocking the world by abdicating the throne after less than a year as king. His younger brother became King George VI, while Edward took the title Duke of Windsor. The controversy did not end there. In the years leading up to the Second World War, Edward's sympathies toward Nazi Germany further damaged his reputation and sparked suspicions of disloyalty. Edward's abdication forever changed the monarchy, proving that even a king's personal choices could shake the foundations of the British Empire. To some, he was a romantic hero who sacrificed everything for love. To others, he was a reckless figure whose actions brought the crown to the brink of collapse and disgrace. Mary, Queen of Scots, reigned 1542–1567. Mary, Queen of Scots, lived one of the most dramatic and tragic lives of any royal in history. Crowned queen when she was only 6 days old, Mary grew up amid intense religious and political turmoil. As a devout Catholic ruling over a largely Protestant Scotland, her reign was marked by constant conflict. Her personal life fueled even greater controversy. Her second husband, Lord Darnley, was murdered under mysterious circumstances, and suspicion quickly fell on Mary and her ally, the ambitious Earl of Bothwell, whom she married soon after. Many believed she had been involved in a plot to kill Darnley, and this scandal destroyed her reputation. Facing rebellion, Mary fled to England, seeking protection from her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. Instead of finding safety, she became a prisoner for 19 years. During her captivity, Mary was implicated in Catholic plots to assassinate Elizabeth and claim the English throne. In 1587, she was executed for treason, an act that shocked Europe. To Catholics, Mary became a martyr, while Protestants saw her as a dangerous threat. Her life and death symbolise the deadly mix of religion, politics and ambition that defined the era.